Annie Silloway, planner, and Tammy Brushwood, clerk to the P&Z board. Tonight's meeting will be conducted as a hybrid in-person and virtual Zoom meeting. If you are here in person and would like to comment on an item, please make sure you fill out a comment card and give it to the clerk. Those joining us by Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. Make sure you unmute yourself when prompted. There are 4 items to be heard by the board tonight, actually 6, correct? In the order listed on the agenda. Staff will introduce the item first. Following that, the applicant will present their item. We will give some time for audience participation, with those in support to be heard first, followed by those in opposition. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal if needed. Audience speakers should restrict comments to pertinent information regarding the item being heard. Audience members will have 3 minutes to speak, or 6 minutes if representing an official group. During the public comment period, we'll begin with comments from our in-person audience, followed by our virtual audience. Speakers should begin speaking at the podium clearly, providing their name and address for the record. Speakers from the virtual audience will be announced. Please be ready when called upon. The board may ask questions of the speaker. After all speakers have been heard, public comment will be closed. Any items shown, such as videos, presentations, pictures, or maps, must be left with the clerk for the public record. Items shown from electronic devices not in paper form should be sent to the clerk for the record. A motion will be made and seconded. Board discussion may ensue, concluding with a vote by the board. I will call the question to the board, and each member will respond with aye or yes or nay or no. We'll start with the first item on the agenda, accepting proof of publication. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion passes. Next, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Smith was the motion, and Commissioner German, I believe, was the second. Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the technical review portion of our agenda, starting with item number 1, Tuscalooma Townhomes Preliminary Subdivision Plan. Annie Silloway will present this item for us.
Hi, good evening. I will be presenting the Tuscalooma Townhomes PSP. The applicant is requesting approval of the Tuscalooma Townhomes Preliminary Subdivision Plan on 12.65 acres located on the northeast corner of West State Road 426 and Tuscaloosa Road. The PSP proposes 111 single-family residential townhomes with a maximum density of 10 dwelling units per net buildable acre and a minimum lot size of 1,056 square feet. The PSP complies with all the conditions of the Tuscalooma Townhomes, formerly known as Alta Seminole PD Final Development Plan, the Developer's Commitment Agreement, and Chapter 35 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. All internal roads will be private and gated access, and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. Public access is via Aloma Avenue, aka State Road 426, and Tuscaloosa Road. Final off-site road improvements will be evaluated and determined during final engineering. Staff recommends approval of the Tuscalooma Townhomes PSP as requested, and that is all I have.
Okay, questions of the applicant? Seeing none. We generally don't do public comment on technical review items, but is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or against this item? Mary, anyone online?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, then we'll close the comment section.
I move we recommend approval of the preliminary subdivision plan for the Tuscaloosa Townhome subdivision.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Move on to item number 2. Novel Parkway Preliminary Subdivision Plan. Annie Silloway will present again.
Hi, good evening again. Annie Silloway, Development Services, presenting Novel Parkway PSP. The applicant is requesting approval of Novel Parkway preliminary subdivision plan on 14.75 acres. The PSP proposes a right-of-way dedication of 10 feet along Wilson Road, adjacent to the commercial lot, Lot 2, located at the corner of Wilson Road and International Parkway. The PSP proposes 3 lots total, with 2 commercial lots and 1 multifamily residential lot. The PSP will comply with all of the conditions of the Novel Parkway Final Development Plan, Developer's Commitment Agreement, and Chapter 35 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. All internal roads will be private with gated access, and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary subdivision plan for the Novel Parkway subdivision, and that is all I have.
Okay, questions of the applicant? Seeing none, would any member of the audience like to speak for or against this item? Okay. Anyone online, Mary?
I see no raised hands.
Okay. Discussion from the board. Or a motion?
I'll make the motion to recommend approval of the preliminary subdivision plan for Novel Parkway subdivision as written.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, and the motion passes. Technical review item number 3 is the Red Ember Estates preliminary subdivision plan, and we have Annie again presenting our item.
Hello again, Annie Celery, Development Services. I will be presenting Red Ember Estates PSP. The applicant is requesting approval of the Red Ember Estates preliminary subdivision plan on 50.49 acres. The PSP proposes 95 single-family residential lots with a density of 2.5 dwelling units per net buildable acre. The previous PSP for the subject property was for 76 lots approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 6, 2019. 10 additional acres and 19 additional lots have been added to the Red Ember Estates plan development, requiring the revised PSP. The PSP will comply with all the conditions of the Red Ember Estates PD Final Development Plan, Developer's Commitment Agreement, and Chapter 35 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. All internal roads will be private with gated access, and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary subdivision plan for the Red Ember Estates subdivision. Thank you.
Questions of the applicant? Would any member in the audience like to speak for or against this item? Mary?
No raised
Anyone on?
hands.
Okay.
Yeah,
Board dis-
yeah, you have a young lady up there, if I remember.
Oh, I do? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's state your name and address for the record.
Natalia Rodriguez, 362 Seminole Ave, Lake Mary, Florida. Good evening. I've spoke on this previously. I don't know, I mean, you guys realize this is really close to the Little Econ Protection Area, correct? And you're setting a precedent for more building, and this needs to be protected. Like, our wildlife corridors in Seminole County are dwindling. They're dwindling and dwindling. I grew up in Oviedo. I'm raising my children there. My parents still live in the home I was raised in. I live so close to there, and I can tell you every single resident that's going to be affected by this, not only is it wetlands, it's just, it's a horrible environmental impact, and I urge you to take that into consideration. This is, and if any of you have driven there, you might notice it's beautiful. It's old growth, and it's something that in less than 10 years, if we don't start turning the other way, we won't be having this conversation about anything. There will be nothing left to build on. So I urge you to please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I need to get home. Oh, find a pen.
Okay, board discussion.
Yeah, I think we already, you looked at this previously.
Yeah.
Just added acreage.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for the Red Ember Estate subdivision containing 95 residential lots on 50.49 acres zoned planned development located on the east side of Old Lockwood Road, a half mile south of Lockwood Boulevard.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Okay, now next we have a request made by a citizen to reorder the remaining items on the agenda and to hear the Sylvan Estates PD rezone first. We also have a request by staff to hear the dredge and filling ordinance last. So that would reorder Sylvan Estates to item number 4. Is that correct, Mary?
The shoreline protection ordinance would go after the Sylvan. So we were scheduled to go first. We're asking just to move Sylvan first and then.
To go last, okay.
We'll do shoreline protection following that.
Right, okay. So that would mean the order of the next 3 items would be Sylvan Estates, small-scale future land use map amendment and PD rezone, Park Dental rezone, no,
The shoreline protection ordinance.
shoreline protection ordinance, and the final item would be the Park Dental rezone. Does anyone have any opposition, staff, or any of the applicants present?
I move we reorder the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll reorder the agenda. With that change, the next item on the agenda to be heard will be the Sylvan Estates Small-Scale Future Land Use Map Amendment and PD rezone. And Joy Giles will be presenting for us this evening.
Good evening, Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. This request is for a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates to plan development and a rezone from A1 agriculture to PD plan development on 4.8 acres located on the south side of South Sylvan Lake Drive, approximately a quarter-mile west of Orange Boulevard. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family residential subdivision with a density of 2.5 dwelling units per net buildable acre for a maximum of 12 lots with a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. The property is located within the Wekiva River Protection Area and the East Lake Sylvan Transitional Area. Per the policies of the comprehensive plan, the Wekiva River Protection Area limits density to 1 unit per net buildable acre. With the exception of those parcels located within the East Lake Sylvan Transitional Area overlay, which allows a maximum density of 2.5 units per net buildable acre when utilizing a cluster design to minimize overall impacts on natural resources. Policy Flu 12.2, per Policy Flu 12. Can you hear me? I think this is, okay.
Yes.
It sounds like it's going out a little bit. Per Policy Flu 12.2, the applicant must demonstrate that the impacts of the cluster development at a density of 2.5 units per net buildable acre will not exceed those impacts of an unclustered development of 1 unit per acre. Minimum impacts to natural resources may be achieved by limiting an impervious surface area, preserving existing vegetation, and promoting additional open space. The applicant's clustered concept plan proposes 28% open space, which exceeds the minimum 25% open space requirement. In addition, the applicant proposes to limit the maximum impervious surface area to 6,012 square feet per lot. If the subject site was developed as a single-family subdivision under the A1 zoning regulations, the maximum density allowable would yield 4 lots. However, the A1 zoning classification does not limit impervious surface area, nor does it require a minimum open space provision. In conclusion, the applicant has demonstrated that the proposed cluster concept plan would not exceed the impacts of an unclustered development as shown on the unclustered impervious calculation concept plan in your package. The plan proposes a buffer along the west perimeter adjacent to proposed lots 8 through 12 that ranges in width from 20 feet to 29 feet, allowing for the preservation of 25 mature oak trees. A 10-foot buffer along the west, south, and east perimeter adjacent to the proposed retention pond will foster the preservation of 17 mature oak trees. A 5-foot landscape easement along the remaining portion of the east perimeter along lots 1 through 5 will allow for the preservation of 5 existing oak trees and will provide room for a privacy hedge. Staff has determined that the 5-foot buffer easement along the east perimeter is adequate due to the existing 20-foot buffer currently located within the Lake Sylvan Oaks development on the west. The comprehensive plan has established standards of review to be used in evaluation of proposed future land use amendments, consistent with the requirements of state law, considering individual site compatibility. Consideration is given to the compatibility with the overall character of the surrounding area regarding density and intensity, consideration to determine if the public facilities and services are available concurrent with the impacts of the development at adopted levels of service, and consideration to determine if the proposed development adheres to comprehensive plan policies. As previously stated, the site is located within the Wekiva River Protection Area, which limits density to 1 unit per acre. With the exception of those parcels lying within the East Lake Sylvan Transitional Area, per Policy Flue 12.1, which has designated the transitional area as an appropriate area for densities of 2.5 units per acre. The development will be served by Seminole County Water and Sewer, and capacity is available. The school board has provided an impact analysis stating that the students generated from the project would be accommodated at the zoned schools, and the roadway segments and intersections are currently operating at adopted levels of service and will continue to do so with the additional trips generated by the project. Staff finds the proposed development to be compatible with the surrounding trend of development along South Sylvan Lake Drive. The development directly adjacent to the west of the subject site is known as the Buckingham Estates development, approved in 2001 with a density of 2.38 units per acre and a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. Directly adjacent to the east is the Lake Sylvan Oaks development, approved in 2014 with a density of 2.5 units per acre and a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. Traveling further east along the south side of South Sylvan Lake Drive to Orange Boulevard are 3 additional PD developments with a maximum density of 2.5 units per acre. Sylvan Trails, approved in 2016, Pearl Lake Estates, approved in 2012, and the Preserve at Lake Sylvan, approved in 2014. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from Suburban Estates to PD and associated rezone from A1 to PD. Thank you.
Questions of staff?
Can you talk a little bit more about the limiting the impervious surface area and anything else taking into account, I guess, there's going to be a lot of comments about flooding in the area?
Yes, so closing business. So the applicant has proposed to limit the impervious surface area on each lot in order to not exceed that of a traditional development that would be constructed under A1. Currently under A1, there's no limit to that. So with the calculation of the right-of-way that's going into the subdivision, they also calculated a footprint, a maximum footprint for each lot, and came up with a maximum impervious surface area of 6,000 square feet, so as to ensure to not, exceed that of an A1 zoning development.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Joey, what, is there anything that sticks out that makes this any different than the surrounding subdivisions?
There is not. If you could put up the aerial of them overall. If you look at the aerial of the past.
I'm looking at, yeah.
Okay. There should be a larger one on there. But so you can see in the past approvals from 2000 and I believe 14 or 2012 were the newer ones that came through. The density and the lot size is the same. Now, some of the other subdivisions have different buffers. Some of them have larger buffers. The subdivision 2 sites down from this one has only a 10-foot buffer around the perimeter.
Right.
So they all vary slightly, but the density and the lot size is the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation? Yes, sir?
Are we done with this one?
No, that was just the staff presentation. Now we're going to hear from the applicant.
Okay, because my hearing aids broke and I can't hear what's going on. But
Okay.
I had comments on one thing.
Okay, do I have your comment card?
Excuse me,
Do I have your comment card?
I gave it to somebody over there.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead.
Hi, Chad Moorhead with Madden Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue here. I had a presentation plan. We can go through my slides, but Joy did such a great job that she kind of stole my thunder a little bit. But I want to put a couple things into record. We had a community meeting almost 2 weeks ago, 13 days ago. Have a sign-in sheet. I also have the information that was mailed out. We sent it out to 98 residents, and we had 4 people show up. I'm also submitting the mailing list that we obtained from the county. We went out, county code today is 300 feet from the property. We went out 500 feet, which I believe is going to be a new standard for the county.
It is, yeah.
Also, the community meeting is not a requirement, but my firm's been doing it for about the last 10 years. So we did it again on this property. Our first exhibit here is the future land use map. And as you can see, this is kind of the donut hole out there. We did the Sylvan Oaks project directly to the east and the Sylvan Trails project just east of that. We've modeled our submittal and our impervious area calculations, Mr. Turnage, that you asked about, just like we did on those 2 previously approved and constructed projects.
Okay.
Can we get the next slide? Or PDF? Next one's the zoning map. Shows the majority of the property on the south side as PD. Majority of the properties on the south side are at 2.5 units an acre as well. So it was exactly what we were asking for. Next slide, please. A little bit bigger aerial that shows where this property sits based on today, just to give you a broad overview of it. And then the next one, please. This shows you more of a detail on an aerial showing you exactly what we're doing, the existing homestead that's there, the buffer on the west side, the existing buffer on the east side. What this doesn't show is that on the east side of the property in the Lake Sylvan Oaks community, there was a 6-foot concrete wall built with that subdivision. On the west side of that 20-foot buffer, we did 20-foot buffers on the east and west side of that property at that time, because we were coming in and both properties on the east and west were one unit, or excuse me, one house on each side of us. So as we've come through, we tried to buffer the Buckingham Estates project on the west. It's also a majority of our pretty trees to save. So we're doing that. We're going to have a dry pond on the south end of the property that will hold the 100-year storm event. That's required by the county. And with 12 units, our traffic impact is de minimis. So with that, I'll close. I'd like to rebut any comments. I don't think, our 5-acre or 4.8-acre project can really do anything for flooding on Lake Sylvan. I understand there's issues out there that may be a county issue, but this project, we're not going to help it. We're not going to hurt it. There's nothing that this project can do to help with that issue. So with that, I'll close and ask that you go with staff recommendation, please.
Questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I've got a question. Is there anything wet on this property?
No, it's high and dry.
High and dry?
Yeah, we have A-type soils. We have some of the best soils in the county on this property.
Okay. Anything environmentally sensitive about the property that we should know about?
Not that I'm sure about. We'll have to have a T&E study to see if there's gopher tortoises out there. It's been pretty well maintained over the years, but gopher tortoises have a way of getting in.
Don't we know that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez?
You mentioned that notice was given to 98 residents and 4 showed up. How was the notice distributed and how much notice was given?
We mailed it out approximately, I can't remember if it was 2 weeks before. I gave it away, so I can't tell you the dates. But we tried to hold the meeting so that we were almost, like I said, 13 days before this meeting. We tried to get it 2 weeks. I received an email after the community meeting saying that some residents hadn't been notified of it. I replied all on that email and asked if people had questions that they could give me a call. I got 0 calls, and I had no more email from that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? the applicant? Okay, we have, we'll move to public comment, and we have one speaker here who wishes to speak in support. William Breen.
Could I wait until after I hear the objections?
No, sir, we always take speakers in support first.
Thank you for hearing my support of this project. I've lived in Buckingham Estates adjacent to the property.
Name and address for the record?
Huh?
Name and address for the record, please?
Oh, my name, okay. William Breen. And what else?
Your address.
2102 Northumbria Drive, Sanford, Florida, 32771. Want my phone number?
No.
No? Okay. So anyway, I've lived since 2004 adjacent to this property. I live in, if they show up here, no, but anyway, I live in one of the 2 lots that don't have the wall where the previous speaker had mentioned about putting up the landscape buffer. I did go to the meeting that he had, and I did have a meeting with the builder afterwards, father and son, and I feel very sure that they are our best bet for development of that property. It's a sooner or later project, okay? I appreciate the zoning board expanding the 24-foot buffer to 29-foot because up from our back of our wall to the fence is only 25 feet because no buffer was ever put in on our property side. So expanding that to 29 feet was very good. I appreciate that. What else? I've seen the other 2 developments this builder has built. They're excellent. They're excellent. I have no qualms that they will enhance the value of every property adjacent to it. As part, you asked about water being a problem on that property. I've lived there, like I said, since '04. Water has never been a problem on that property. So Lisa has taken very good care of her property. There are some issues with the trees that I've asked the builder to kind of consider. Some of them are very established trees, oak trees, very nice, and all that, and they've assured me that they will do their best. And the 29-foot buffer will encompass most of the trees that we wanted to save. And that, if we go back to the 24-foot buffer, it won't. So I appreciate you considering that. And other than that, I just think that these builders are good builders, and I think it's a good project.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Breen. Okay, Mary, do we have anyone online who's in favor?
So I have someone with their hand raised, but it's been raised for quite some time. I can let them in and they can let us know.
Okay.
James, you're on. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Dr. James Shukus. I am actually in opposition to the project, not in favor of, and I'm happy to speak after Jen Ferguson. I know she's going to try and lead the opposition to this project.
Okay, I'll go ahead and remove him and then...
We'll come back. Okay, I do have one other speaker in support, Angela Andrus.
Hi. I work actually for the builders, so I hope it's okay. It's for...
Ms. Andrus, state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Angela Andrus, 1533 Lake George Drive, Lake Mary. I work for the builders. So I have a sort of selfish reason, of course, for it's how I make my livelihood. But I also want to speak out for the builders. I've worked for other builders in the state of Florida. And I have to say, in my experience, that these builders are the most conscientious builders that I know of. They take such pride, not only just in the building and the product, but they care for the community and for the people. They meet with each and every prospect that come in, and they listen to them. They, if there is ever an issue, they stand behind it. So, you know, of course they're going to build for a profit, and we all have to make a living, but they care for the community and that aren't ethical, and these people are. And so I do take great offense when I have seen and read stuff that is not accurate, and I wouldn't stand behind them, and I wouldn't get up here today in front of everybody if I didn't believe it. And they're just great people. So I do hope that you are taking into account that they do stand by their product, and they do stand for this community, and they've been here a long time. And it's their name on that building and that product. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving to speakers in opposition. I have Gina Holbrook. Ms. Holbrook, can you come up and state your name and address for the record?
Good evening. My name is Gina Holbrook, and I'm at 6320 South Sylvan Lake Drive. I want to share some of the concerns we have with regard to the construction based on the two recent communities that were built. You can see just a snapshot of some of our pictures of concerns from the residents on South Sylvan Drive with the deterioration of the roads, the conditions. We are new residents, my husband and I. We moved in October of 2019. Part of the reason we selected this community was because of the nice farm relative to our raising our grandchildren and our son there. We like the quietness of the community. We like the fact there was not a lot of construction around. We like the fact that it was a 2-lane road and not a lot of traffic. And we spent a lot of time choosing our home. We were in our prior home almost 20 years, so it was a big decision for us. And you can see some of the concerns we've had to deal with. Our 13-year-old son, my husband built him a basketball hoop, and unfortunately we did not allow him to play basketball in front of our home because of the construction. And my husband will share one of the main reasons we found out after moving into our community why we don't allow him nor our grandchildren to play in front of our home. So we've had to make some major modifications to allow our children and our family to enjoy our beautiful home. And I appreciate the developer looking to save some of the beautiful historic oak trees. Unfortunately, with the drainage, partially because of the 2 new properties across the street from us, we've had to remove, unfortunately, in the last year and a half, 3 beautiful, very old oak trees because they've died because of the drainage, because a lot of the, not having the water to filtrate anywhere it just sits. We also have one of the few boat docks on next to our home that is now unusable because of the water sitting there. You can't physically get a vehicle in there or a boat, unfortunately. So we have many people for many years who have used it, elderly, that no longer can enjoy it because of the water and the issues with that. So you can see from the pictures, the construction, the damage, the roundabouts, people use it 30 miles an hour on our road as a joke. We've clocked people doing 60 and 70. My son works for Sanford Police Department. He's had deputies out clocking 79 miles an hour just last weekend on a 30-mile-an-hour road that our children walk, horses walk, bikers. I've personally almost been hit several times walking. I no longer walk on the road. I drive so that I can get on my bike, and it's very unfortunate because we live next to a beautiful development, a beautiful trail, but you can't access it safely on our road. So I appreciate your consideration in looking at these pictures and understand the impact that another development is going to create for our community in a very historic, development. One of the original owners for Lake Sylvan lives across the street from us and is devastated as well. And unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. We've had many conversations with him, with his family also, no longer being able to enjoy their home in front of their house. You can't stand out in front of your home and have a chat with your neighbors because of that reason. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Nancy Harmon. Commissioner Smith, would you pass those comments back up to me so I can let these commissioners see?
I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Nancy Harmon, 752 Pioneer Way, Geneva, Florida. I'm speaking on behalf of the Sustainability Leadership Initiatives. It's an LLC, so I'd like 6 minutes, please. I can show you the record. We are registered with the state of Florida.
That doesn't entitle to 6 minutes. It's a homeowner association that entitles to 6 minutes.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead out of courtesy and let her have it.
I can show you the information if you need it.
Go ahead.
Okay. The first thing I'd like to discuss is from the standpoint of the cluster subdivision, while I recognize that in the past there have been decisions to allow that, the way that was applied in the past, I believe, does not reflect the intent of the code. The code basically says that you can do up to 2.5 units per net buildable acre if you meet the criteria of completing an analysis that proves that the unit density by the increase will not impact and provide any kind of impact on the natural resources. I looked at the photos that were provided, and basically I saw, if we do this, it's this, and if we do this, it's this. I see no proof in any of the documentation submitted that, in fact, they meet the criteria of FLU 12-2, which is recognition of East Lake Sylvan Transition Area, and it states that the development has less impact, that they must prove that the development has less impact on natural resources than non-clustered residential development at one dwelling per unit per net buildable acre. An equivalent analysis shall be required for any proposed non-residential development, so we're not talking that, but within the development, I have not seen that provided. Okay, just saying that I did it last time doesn't make it right. Additionally, when you look at their statement, they go back, actually I believe this is part of staff statement as well, is that they do believe that they comply with that. I'm stating they don't. And I think we should look at that from the standpoint of density and the impact in the area. Recognizing, again, it has been done in the past. Doesn't mean it was right, it just means that it was done. I'd like to jump over to the road situation. I looked on the application and, oh, I'm sorry, one other thing, the recharge area. Part of the impact that we're looking at from this particular piece of property is, in fact, it is high, it is dry, and it is one of the areas that we would consider a highly important recharge area for this community, for that area. I'm sorry, I'm redundant with area into the area of the area. Anyway, one of the things that it states is that the increase of open space areas. Well, in reality, if you were to do a true cluster subdivision, which was intended by the cluster subdivision clause, which says, in this case, they would only be allowed 4 houses. In that case, you would see a lot of land that's left over for open space simply because 4 houses is a lot different than 12 houses. And even if you consider 4 houses with each having a 6-stall barn, which I can attest to understanding the density or land that covers, you're still talking about 4 acres with a home and a barn or a home and a swimming pool. So to me, the aspect of open spaces they're providing in their stormwater management activities hardly equates to or is not equal to 4 homes on that 4.8 acres. So I'm saying 4 homes on that acreage, they could cluster that and they could probably improve the open space by their cluster. But they're not choosing to do that. They're choosing to say we are entitled to 2.5 net buildable, when in fact, that has not been proven that they are entitled to that. And so I'm asking this board to ask for that proof. I'm asking the county staff to prove that that is true, not just the developer. And, in defense of the developer needs to have the county staff make that assessment themselves. for our records, for us, the community, for us as citizens. That hasn't been done. The other aspect of this is the road. One of the parts of this road is, and one of the criteria that they're speaking to is that the road is exempt from the standards that would be required for, what do you call it? Hold on a second, let me find that spot, because I didn't think I was going to be speaker number 2. I actually thought you guys were going to come out later tonight. Okay, so in the transportation area, you know, the state of Seminole County is required underneath their mobility strategy to provide transportation, 3 forms of transportation, because that's what the exemption is for this area. If you look at that road, there's no transportation other than my personal car and my bicycle if I choose to use it. If I want to get to work, I have to take my car. I cannot take a bus. There is not a tram. It's me and my car. It's urban sprawl, if you will, because I now would have to drive probably an hour, if not 45 minutes, from that location to any place for my job. All right? But the Seminole County is required in their mobility strategy to ensure that they mitigate the issues with development in that area, specifically under the clause of how shall we grow. Under how shall we grow, they're supposed to be looking at how to ensure that roads and traffic and transportation and building does not induce more urban sprawl. I haven't seen that either. I don't see that in this paperwork. And again, in the defense for the developer, that developer should have that information from Seminole County so that I, the citizen, am not up here complaining, saying the developer has the exemption, but the county has not provided the criteria of the exemption, which means transportation.
Ms. Harmon, please wrap up.
Okay, so that's it. I believe the road needs some effort to be looked at. The road is a 2-lane connector road. It is not a main road. It will never be 4-laned. That's the other thing. In the paperwork for Seminole County, this road is a connector road. It will never be 4-laned. Thank you for your time.
Frederick Morrow.
Frederick Morrow, 6595 South Sylvan Lake Drive, Sanford. So I live west of this subdivision and also about 8 feet lower at sea level. So whether they're high and dry there or not, every single day it rains, it's going to come off there and run into the wetlands that are approaching the road, literally within 6 inches to a foot, depending on the day and the rain you get. And we haven't hit the wet season yet. By adding even one home to what's currently there, any concrete, you cannot stop the runoff. They're higher, we're lower. Where all the water is standing is lower. And my real mission here was to talk about the road. But I heard this high and dry, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. Where's it going to go when it rains? Not there. It's all downhill. Everything that we're suffering is downhill from all of these subdivisions, and it has gotten exponentially worse in the last 4 to 5 years. I moved into the area in 2005, and it was a lot less dense then than it is now even. I have dogs. I walk my dogs twice a day, every day. I moved there shortly after the road was paved. I have witnessed this road just get tore up, and it's not the basic traffic of people coming from the crazy development of the subdivisions west of us before you hit Lake County. It's the dump trucks that come in to build these 6 weeks at a time, moving the dirt on this road coming from Lake County back and forth all day. All day. From one day to the next, you can see where a shoulder is completely tore up and it's kicked off, and they come in and patch it a couple of days later. I'm walking my dogs, people hit those. It's frightening some mornings. I continue to walk them because they'll drive me nuts if I don't. That's a side note. The impact of traffic outside of this on that road is tremendous, just from our sports economic impact, from the soccer fields that are at the end of the field. I think if you look on the schedule, there are massive tournaments, no less than 10 to 12 weeks a year, and I welcome that revenue to the county. That's fantastic. But again, from hotel to restaurant to fields, it's nonstop, over and over and over. And this road has become so unsafe over. And when you add that with the construction traffic, the damage to the road, there's a dip right now in the road next to a retention pond where the horse barn is. If you've been down the road, you know where I'm talking, with the stable. And there's a pond there, and last year when the trucks were going through, the heavy dump trucks for the current development being built, that washed out, it drops at least 9 inches. There's a dip that drops 9 inches. There's photos where you can see the concrete breaking away. And cars come down that hill going well over the 30 mile, and you can see them just hit it and bottom out, and then there's the flooding from the irrigation at both ends because it's the lowest spot, and they hit that water, and it's just a matter of time before someone piles into the fence or into a tree or into one of my neighbors. We have to stop. You know what? One last thing. One question that was asked was, what's different about this than all the rest? This is the last one. That's it. You look on those maps. That's the last of it. And that's what makes it different. You can set a precedence by doing the right thing this time. Thanks for your time, and I appreciate it.
Okay, Joseph Humphreys.
My name is Joseph Humphreys. I live at 883 Cardinal Point Cove. I'm the vice president of the Cardinal Point Homeowners Association. I spoke with my president and other members of my board today. They stand opposed to this, as do the majority of my neighbors, at least all the ones that I've spoken with. So I don't know that I would need 6 minutes, but I'd like to request 6 minutes.
Okay.
Now, I live in that area as well. I travel that area. I have friends that live around that area. And yes, like the gentleman just said, we've watched it change. Well, we know the change is coming. I've got maps of this county that go back to the turn of the century. Yeah, it's changed, okay? But in a meeting with the county commissioners a few months ago, Commissioner Herr made a statement about some of these issues. She said, you know, I think we need to look at this stuff from a 30,000-foot level. And she was absolutely right. My dad would say, well, maybe we need to see the forest for the trees. We have a big picture here. This is a small county. Ironically enough, Seminole County is, 64 out of 67 counties in the state, acreage-wise, but we're the third densest population in the entire state. Third densest, and that's including areas like Miami. So the big thing here for me, I live on a well, and I have friends that served in the legislature going back to the 80s when this whole area was started to be looked at by Governor Martinez, tried for protection. And this map pretty much tells you what the problem is. The purple area, pink, whatever you want to call it, that's the highest recharge area for our aquifer in the county. We are paving it over. We were warned about this back in the early 2000s, that if we pave over this area, the springs are going to drop, the river's going to dry up, algae blooms are going to continue to expand. Guess what? Go out there and stand on top of the new bridge and tell me that the Wekiva River looks healthy to you. I'm involved with the Springs Council, all these, I can tell you, I can show you, for days, documents, data, showing you what's happening. The gentleman talked about this area. Yeah, this is a high recharge area. That's why there's no water on that land, because it goes down, it percolates into the aquifer, which I then pull out to bathe myself and to cook with. So that's what we're talking about. We need to stop this. We need to do the right thing. We don't have much left to preserve, but you can't tell me that the impervious acreage or area for 4 houses is somehow equal to or greater than what they've proposed. Thank you.
George Celery.
Hi there. George Celery, 5231 Shoreline Circle, Sanford. I just want to reiterate a couple things that Joe said too about this area, the recharge area. I also want to talk to you. You are the backstop. You don't get paid anything. You're the citizens. You're us sitting up there. And this county is growing and growing and growing. There's not much left. We're the third most populous, densely populated as it is. And when you take out the rural area, that makes it even worse. So let's go back and look at 2014. In 2014, when Oaks #1 came up, the Planning and Zoning Commission said 6-1 no. In fact, the owner of this property was leading the charge, saying there's no way we should be doing Sylvan Oaks 1. Sylvan Oaks 2 was a different story because of the trend. And before that, Sylvan Oaks 1, the trend was Buckingham, and they stated all these different trends. So if you think about it, when this one's built out, what's to stop saying, well, we did that, let's do this, let's do this, let's keep marching all the way to the river and develop everything. So, but the one thing I really wanted to talk about was the aspect of the math. I mean, I'm sorry, I went to Stetson, graduated from Stetson. Math is really easy. 4 houses, 1 home per acre, that's what the overlay says. And it does say they can go up to 2.5, up to a maximum. I know everyone wants to go to the maximum means more money. But it basically says on natural resources, the equivalent of 1 house per acre. There's no way math-wise 12 houses does the same. I guarantee you 4 houses don't do as much water or do less water than 12. They take out less trees than 12. They put in more stormwater. They take up more recharge area. 12 is always greater. I mean, maybe someone stretches the math. I noticed that, 38 or 28 versus 25, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to go up and we'll mess around with that math too for 2 weeks from now. But we're going to look at that. But I mean, if you take away a 20-foot buffer, how much does that add? Going from a 20-foot buffer to no buffer because the other development has a buffer. So, you look at the map, and I know they compare it to agriculture, but that's not a fair comparison. I guess everyone's going to put a 25,000 square foot estate on agriculture. So, making agriculture or A1 look bad so that we can make this look good, make 4 look bad so that 12 looks better. The math just doesn't add up, folks. I mean, think about it. I mean, you got kids in school or grandkids, it doesn't add up. So I'm just hoping you'll think about it, and like before, like in 2014, you'll say no, and keep this from being a problem in the future. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Cindy Holler. I have 2 more speakers.
And I'll just defer to let them go.
Jen Ferguson.
Good evening. My name's Jen Ferguson. I live at 6460 South Sylvan Lake Drive. I'm less than a half a mile from this development. I would like to ask, we don't have an official HOA, but I've been the leader of our neighborhood on many things on MSBU, along with Dr. Shukus, who's online. I'd like to have 6 minutes if that's possible.
Have to be speaking on behalf of an official group. Are you speaking on behalf of?
I don't have an official group.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm opposed on this on many, many reasons. I have my secretary here. If you can look at the map, Jim, can you push it up so that you can see it?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
So talking about flooding, your planner as well as the applicant did a map but it showed this much of the street. We have to look at the whole street, and that's what this map illustrates. If I speak loudly, I'll state here. This point is where Sylvan Estates is going to be. This is where the wetlands is. It's 1,400 feet. These 3 subdivisions have put 3 lift stations on our little tiny road. Our road loses power all the time. We had a situation where we had 2 neighbors that were on oxygen. We could not get power restored to our street because we're an old street. We have an old electrical system. This street, as you can see, we don't even have shoulders. So when we lose power, what happens to lift stations when you lose power? You lose the ability to move that sewage along. So our street has become the alley street of all these neighborhoods. They make it look like, oh, it just looks like this is just how it should be. Buckingham dumps off into a much more established road. The other states at Pearl Lake dump into Orange. These 3 are feeding into our road, and the road cannot handle it. And if you look at if we have a flooding situation, which we already do. It's at flood level now. If we have 1 rainstorm, that road is going to be impassable. We have an issue with power. If we lose power, then you're going to have sewage from 347 homes dumping into Sylvan Lake right there. And you can't say that it won't happen because I've lived on the street for 8 years and we've lost power consistently, even with just little storms. So to show just a small area and say, well, this is how it looks because it fits within the other subdivisions, these are subdivisions that have been crammed onto a little country road. And in the pictures that you see here, it's hard to tell, but the water from the lake and the wetlands is almost to the lake. Stay on this picture here. This is where you can see the level of the lake from the road. We have no variance. If we have 1 rainstorm, we're flooded. In 2014, we had 18 inches on that road. And now instead of having 16 homes on that street, we're going to have 65 homes. I'm not against development. I'm just against stupid development. And this board, not these people, but your board, back when this disaster started, turned this down. These are all views of additional flooding that's around the lake. Additional homes are not going to help this situation. And again, I'm reasonable. Not 12 homes. This is my one last question. Who here has been to the site by a raise of hands from the board? I know you have. I would beg you to just give us a little bit more time. I will personally walk you on the street and show you this area so that you can see what we're talking about. Seeing on a map is one thing. Being there in person is a completely different thing. I appreciate your time, and I really hope that you make the right decision to not rezone this to have such massive density. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Larry Holbrook.
Good evening. My name is Larry Holbrook, 6320 South Sylvan Lake Drive in Sanford. First of all, I appreciate your time today. I know that you guys are volunteers, and we do appreciate you listening to us. No one is questioning the integrity or the abilities of the builder. And their name going on the product, I'm sure, is a very good product. However, our family lives on the street. We're directly impacted by your decision. And your decision could be dramatic if it goes the wrong way for us. My wife spoke about our son and the traffic that goes up and down that street, and it is pretty telling. And there are times where a 13-year-old comes in and says, "Dad, I can't play out there. These guys are crazy out here on this road." And he's yelling at him, and they're yelling back at him, so I bring him in the house. Recently, we found out that there was a dump truck accident right in front of our house before we moved in, and it was a dump truck that was taking materials away from one of the construction sites, going up and down this road too fast, and flipped the dump truck right in front of our house, and two were critically injured, 3 people were injured. I don't want that to occur again. One of the pictures there was my house, with the water coming right up to the house. When we moved in 18 months ago, We had a beautiful shoreline. Now, I've lost 2 to 5 feet of shoreline all around my house. And it's getting worse, to the point where I swore I'd never put in a seawall, but now I have to consider, and I've actually contracted with somebody to look at putting in a seawall in my house, because I'm starting to lose so much land in my backyard and on the side. I live right on the corner of the conservation area, right on the corner of the wetlands. So I've got the lake on one side and I got the wetlands here, and it's creeping up to my house. The wetlands are underwater. I see the bears out there. I see the deer out there. And when the deer go through there, the deer are up to almost to their body when they're walking through the wetlands. I hear the bear out there tromping through the wetlands. You see the coyotes out there at times too, tromping through the wetlands. So I'm asking you, please consider denying this request. I'm asking you to please consider denying this request from the builder to build on our street and give us the opportunity to continue to have a beautiful street. I'll finish with this. If you continue to put people out there, there's not enough traffic, there's not enough road to hold all that traffic, and you can't expand anymore because of the conservation areas on either side.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mary, who do we have online?
Dr. Shukus? He needs to unmute himself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Shukus. I live at 6980 South Sylvan Lake Drive, Sanford, Florida, a few houses down from Jen Ferguson and the rest of my neighbors that you heard. I think you've heard from everyone. I'm just going to recap some of the highlight points that I think you've heard from all of my neighbors and the community that lives on this road and will be impacted by this development. First and foremost, I agree with everyone. This came up, I've lived in my house for 7 years. This came up, back in 2014, and this was almost unanimously voted down for all the right reasons, but due to politics, it ended up passing. I would urge all of you not to make, 3 wrongs don't make a right. You've heard from all of your neighbors, everyone on this road who will be directly impacted from this development. We've heard from, someone who works for the builder and, the site developer. I'm sure they all have good reasons for doing this. However, the downhill impact of what this is going to do to the people in the community that are going to be directly affected by this is massive. You've heard about flooding. You've heard about the conditions of the road. We're all on a well. We're all on septic. We're all underwater because we all are at the lowest point of this road, whereas this property is high and dry. I will remind everyone that the owner of this property was vehemently against Sylvan Oaks 1. I think comparing Sylvan Oaks, any of these developments, to Buckingham Estates is not fair. There is no entrance to Buckingham Estates on Sylvan Lake Drive, nor is there to Pearl Lake Estates. Those drain to Orange, not to our road. So I think, if you really look at this from a what is the community looking for here, I don't think any of us are unreasonable. I think Ms. Ferguson stated it very well. None of us are against development. We're just against, bad development, and this is going to negatively impact everyone. I think to the point of the gentleman who spoke on the site development, that the traffic is going to be diminutive. I'm going to vehemently disagree with that. I think you've heard from my neighbors that say the traffic on our road is insane. The level of traffic that cuts between Orange and the soccer fields is crazy. Adding 14 homes is not going to have no impact on that. Someone's either going to come out of their neighborhood and make a left or make a right. So I find that statement a little bit disingenuous at best. And no one's questioning whether or not the builder's a good person or he delivers a quality product. I'm sure he does. The question becomes is how is this going to negatively impact the neighbors on the street and our natural resources? And I think you've heard from enough neighbors to realize it's going to have a negative impact. I don't think any of us are personally against this for some vendetta against the builder. This will negatively impact all of us who I'm sure, like me, have a majority of my, I have a lot invested in my home. And I moved here specifically to this community on Sylvan Lake Drive because it was a natural resource, because it was surrounded by wetlands, because it is beautiful, because we do have gopher tortoises, because we do have bald eagles, and we do have bear, and we do have deer.
Sir, please start to wrap up.
I'll wrap it up now. So I would ask you and encourage you and please urge you to please consider not granting this redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, who's next?
Next is William Wills.
Myself. Hi, good evening. Thank you for the time. I actually represent Tall Trees HOA. I'm the president of the HOA, so I request 6 minutes, though I don't think I'll take 6 minutes up, but just in case. I mean, I don't want to necessarily bore you by saying some of the same things that were said previously, but I do bike up and down the road there. I don't live in the area. I live in 495 Still Forest Terrace, which is Tall Trees subdivision. And as you've seen previously in other requests for development, that part of the county already suffers from extreme flooding. So that's problem number one. The actual trail that winds around in that area there, the solution was to put 2 signs up on the trail that says, hey, this floods, so be careful. And there's been discussions about doing a flood analysis and understand the impact of new developments, paving over, even with drainage ponds. Typically, most of the property is used for homes and not for a drainage pond, so that it's not an equal trade-off between the actual construction and solid pavement and what can be absorbed and what actually runs off onto the street. The second point is valid about the traffic. The traffic is already heavy. It already generally exceeds the speed limit. We'll be adding more traffic and more homes, more residents, which adds to the traffic, which doesn't make sense. And then the entire posture of the land, it runs out into the road. The wetlands run over into the houses from the lake into the backyards. It just exacerbates the situation out there. And really the bottom line is you guys are the gatekeeper for this sort of thing. You're before it gets to the county commission, as you know. I know you know that. But that's why residents turn out and try to give you logical reasons why. In some cases, developments don't make sense, or this kind of development doesn't make sense. It's not an anti-development movement. It's not, let's not build anything anywhere. But it is consider the impact. Because the reasons why we have flooding and overcrowding and roads with too many cars on them and the terrible accidents we have is because these sort of considerations were not given when the requests were made to the P&Z initially to rezone and to build the residence. So I ask that you deny the change and consider the impact to the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person is Paul Algier.
Yes. Do you have a screen sharing capabilities for me?
You should be able to, yes.
Okay. I guess I'll see that pop up. I don't see it as of yet.
Okay, I apologize. You were just an attendee. You do not have to share screen. You do not have the ability to share your screen.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. My apologies then. Okay, Paul Algieri, 6590 South Sylvan Lake Drive. I'm a retired firefighter from Seminole County Fire Department. In 2004, I was the battalion chief responsible for the damage assessment in this area after Charlie, Francis, Jean, and whatever else we had that year. In my response to this area, I crossed over a foot of water on South Sylvan Lake Drive. Prior to those events, this lake was in drought conditions. Those short events put that lake into overflow across the road. Currently, we're in a similar situation, except the lake is very high at this point right now. As it was mentioned earlier by Fred and others, the lake is right up against the roadway. We've had discussions with the county on this already, with Public Works and lake management. Everybody's looking at it, trying to help us with this. But higher density housing in this area is not going to fix this problem, and it is going to contribute to this problem. I know they put perk ponds in, they put 100-year flood dry ponds in and all that, but I've watched what the hurricanes did in '04, and water flows downhill. It's just as simple as that. The water flows downhill. When those ponds overflow, when those cans and overflow cisterns hit and they drain, everything drains downhill. This is a basin, and it flows out to Yankee Lake into the Wekiva and the St. Johns. So any building around here with higher density, especially on this road and in the vicinity, is going to cause problems down the road with high rain events. And we've all seen it on the news. It's no surprise. These events are on the rise, and they will continue to be on the rise, it appears. We have other properties on this road that still have not been developed, and we know they're being eyeballed, and rightfully so. It's a beautiful area, and we're not opposed to construction and to building. People need houses. People want to live in a nice area, but we need to be a little more considerate of what we're doing for this area and to this area. So we have issues right now with septic tanks being impinged on, septic systems, drain fields from existing homes being threatened, basically. If this water level continues to rise, we're going to release more nitrogen into the lake, which will cause problems. The state's trying to prevent that. We're going to cause that. So again, it's not just this subdivision, it's future subdivisions in this area, because there's still some undeveloped properties on the west side of South Sylvan that, I'm sure are being looked at. With regards to the safety on the road.
Okay, sir, please start to wrap up.
I will do that. I'm not going to be redundant, but the safety on the road is a dramatic situation right now, very concerning. My crews responded to that accident where that dump truck overturned. If it turned a certain different way, it would have took out the entire power pole system, probably would have rolled into the neighbor's house, and killed several more people. Well, it didn't actually kill them, but it possibly would have killed those standing in the roadway. That was a bad situation because of the construction. So things that we need to look at as the county, you need to look at this and step back and take a look at it, especially for the future of other development of properties. Thank you.
Mary, who do we have next?
There are no more hands.
Okay, I got 2 additional comment cards late. Natalia Rodriguez, did you wish?
I was going to say, I didn't want to speak.
Oh, okay. Natalia Rodriguez, did you wish to speak? Okay, come up. State your name and address for the record.
Natalia Rodriguez, 362 Seminole Avenue, Lake Mary. I don't want to echo what a lot of people have already said. Great job, everyone, saying a lot of great things. I'm coming to you today as I'm a graduate student of forest resources, natural resources, and conservation. More specifically, what Joe said over there about the recharge area. We really, really need to start coming together as a community. All of us, all of you there, all of us, we're all a community, right? We all chose to live here for a reason, but I can tell you scientifically, the facts are there. Florida is teetering. So adding 12 homes to this much acreage, ludicrous is not the best word to use, but it's close. There's a reason the land amendments are already there. Getting a rezone for something like this, you could even see on the, does anybody live here that's behind it? I wouldn't even want that built if that was my backyard. That's just one issue, but the main issue is ecologically, this is a very sensitive area. Everyone's already told you the flooding, it's only gonna get worse. And I hope that I can inspire something within you guys for future uses. When this stuff is gonna start coming, there's a lot of us here, we're here to stay. We're here to keep telling you guys, Seminole County is beautiful. We all came here for one reason, and it's, let's maintain that integrity. I know I'll be the one to say it. I'm totally anti-development. Not really, but I'm anti-tearing down what's left. Because you take that down, we're gonna have a very different conversation. Like I said, in 10 years, we're gonna look back and say, what happened? How do we get this back? And unfortunately, it takes thousands of years to get that back, and none of us will see it. So I urge you to take that into consideration as well. I understand you gotta do some building, someone's selling their land, but
also the owner doesn't want it. So these are things that should be taken into consider. Let's consider the citizens who already live there, not the developers. No offense to developers, but you guys have had your run. Look around. I don't want to be the next Miami. So thank you. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy Holler.
Hi, Cindy Holler, 1731 Beacon Drive, Sanford. I would like to request 6 minutes. So not only am I co-admin on Smart Development Coalition in Seminole County, but also am in charge of my neighborhood watch, please.
Okay, you're speaking on behalf of the neighborhood?
Yes. Thank you. So first thing I'd like to do is pass on a local petition that has over 600 signatures and comments of people who opposed this. And this has only been out there for, gosh, I don't even think a month, 3 weeks. So can I pass it on to Ms. Brushwood? Thank you so much. So cluster subdivision, rezone. So what are you saving, right? Because the report says there's no wetlands on the property, all right? But realize it's surrounded by wetlands, as you saw the picture. So let's not do this. I'm opposed to it. I ask you to deny it. Let's not contribute to the flooding for these people who live around this area. Why do I care? I'm concerned about smart development. So I'm not anti-development, and I'm fair. I understand that, I wish that Lisa Metcalf wanted to sell her property as a homestead, and I understand that she didn't. I would be okay with it being developed as suburban estates. So I'd like you, if that could happen, that would be great. I think profit could still be made on that. I'd like to follow how shall we grow and maintain the upland. Please keep in mind too, P&Z board, that the prior BCC board was not here for the previous PDs. Okay, at least not every member. And then I want to be a little absurd by presenting absurdity. Is the county going to support every resident or property owner with roughly, and this isn't even 5 acres, who wants to rezone to a PD? I mean, seriously, that would be absurd. We're Seminole County, we're Florida's natural choice. So I mean, think about just the waste produced, of the number of lift stations that would produce. I mean, and I am no engineer, but I do not believe, as this was brought up before, 12 homes is saving more land than 4 homes. All right? The area is already overdeveloped. The cluster concept is invalid. As I see it, the low man loses. I mean, that was brought up before, low-lying wetlands area. So I visited this area twice to make sure that I really understood what was going on here. I have a concern for water quality. I read through the comments, that were submitted with the P&Z. I have to say, workforce housing, I mean, no disrespect, but I did find it humorous as I was reading through it. I mean, the prices of these homes are going to be high. And this is kind of rhetorical, right? But who wants to go on record for being liable for flooding? The developer, the engineer, the county. Who's going to end up paying in the end? Seminole County taxpayers. So I want to be reasonable and pragmatic. And I also, with my remaining time, there's an article that the Orlando Sentinel read in 2005. So in this article, right, the Sentinel did October 18th, 2005, Sylvan residents demand flooding fix. And I understand that this regards, is regards to the lake, and I know this property isn't on the lake, but, it's close enough. New construction has caused additional runoff, which is a particular problem for lakes, such as Sylvan. Limited discharge, okay, made by an engineer. Here's a good point, right? Right now we're in dry season. So you drive down there, you're like, oh, I don't see water on the road. Much of the construction since the mid-1990s was done during drier conditions, according to the report, so changes weren't as noticeable until heavy rainfall started. And if I could pass this along to the board, please. audio? She has, okay, all right. Mary, would you play the video? There's also a video where Ms. Ferguson was interviewed by Wesh. Okay. All right, so, and just one second, Mary will play that. With that, I'll step down and we can just watch it. Thank you so much for your time, I appreciate it.
But there's quite a few docks that are completely immersed.
Sylvan Lake is more than full. Nearly 24 docks are hidden by high water. Seminole County is offering sandbags to help residents keep floodwaters under control. Jen Ferguson's grateful they responded promptly.
I called and said, I need help. Neighbors need help. What can you do to help? And they've been working throughout this entire weekend.
You can see where her fence disappears under the water line, and these 30,000 pounds of bagged sand already in place to try to protect her property, and she's going to put more down. Her yard, she says, goes out another 35, 40 feet. You just can't see it. Rain in the forecast? Not good. She's happy they dodged any big rain this past weekend.
We had just a drizzle. But even with that and all the runoff, the lake rose 2¼ inches. And when it's already over where it needs to be, anything is going to be a disaster.
Ferguson believes that drainage from Sylvan Lake to Yankee Lake has been impacted by the construction along State Road 46 west of Sanford. The DOT says it's working with Seminole County to deal with flooding concerns. A pump was added Sunday, and more may be added this week.
We have to move anywhere from 32 to 35 million gallons of water to get it to a reasonable level. And that doesn't factor in any additional rains coming through.
The sandbag stations will be open daily until no longer needed. In Seminole County, Dave McDaniel, West 2 News.
Okay, and last speaker will be Wapa Esposito.
Hello. 5040 Hawks Hammock Way. When talking about wetlands, in a lot of 4.8, half mile from the lake, I don't know what would you classify that as. Anyhow, that's just the point here. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the mitigations that the county is heading to help the problems of flooding, where I came in the past and opposed other communities like this because they were pressuring like Esther Farms, Sanford Farms. These are big initiatives that the county is taking right now. They had bought lands and they are going to be building retaining containment water ponds. I don't know where for that community you could do that, replicate that. Another project the county is having to do is at Silverleaf, where they are doing now geotechnical boring, watching the stations, and the county had hired a surveying company to basically decide where they're going to lay those drainage pipes to take them to the pond of that community, something that should have done by the builder. If this community is so sound and is such a high ground, that's gonna flood the other people who are down the road from it, how those people are gonna deal with it. And if this community is so sound and is not gonna be flooding others, then maybe a performance bond against flooding should be issued. Bear in mind, it takes between 4 and 5 years before flooding occurs after the area being cemented. That's what happened in Esther Farms, in Sanford Farms, in Silverleaf. That's what I know about. I don't know about the other areas. So please consider the high cost of mitigation that the county is going to have to shoulder one day, which will mean also taxpayer money. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm opposing, obviously, to this project at the density that is it proposed at.
Okay. Applicant?
Madam Chair, we do have two more people on Zoom
Okay.
that'd like to speak.
Who do we have?
First one is Kevin Barber. He'll need to unmute himself.
Hi, this is Dr. Kevin Barber. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I live at 6410 South Sylvan Lake Drive. Thank you for your time and hearing our concerns today. I just wanted to add two just new pieces of information. I know it was brought up earlier about septic systems being at risk because of the flooding we're having. I built my home 8 years ago, and last month I had to pay $15,000 to have my entire septic drain field and tank replaced because of the flooding issues. And so I know that the subject property is high and dry, but again, that's just adding more pressure to an area that is already far beyond what it can contain. And I hope that you guys have heard that clearly from many different sources. The other piece of information I would say is that I purchased this land because I enjoy cycling. Seminole County is a great place to come if you enjoy cycling. There's lots of good places to do it. And I used to cycle from my home every day. I no longer do that anymore because of several instances where my family members and myself have been almost harmed by the traffic. As you've seen the pictures from the road, there's no shoulders. This was a dirt road not that long ago, and it's a very narrow road. And because of the traffic we received from the soccer fields and the additional development that's just encroaching all around us, it's no longer safe to ride a bike. There's been 3 instances in the past year where ambulances have been to remove cyclists because there are group bicycle rides that come down our road and accidents have happened. So not only from an ecology standpoint and environmental standpoint is this development a bad idea, but also just for the safety. Every additional car that gets added to this road is just etching away at the safety of those of us who live here. So thank you for your time and appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Mary, who's next?
Yeah, the next speaker is Judy Ryan.
Okay.
She'll need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Judy Ryan. I live at 2210 Lake Sylvan Oaks Court, Sanford, Florida, 32771. I actually live in the development that butts right up to Lisa Metcalf's property. And I'm like others, I'm not opposed to builders or building. I am opposed to cramming in a lot of houses quite close to each other. And we have had some problems here ourselves with when it rains. We've had some puddling and I don't want to say flooding, but a lot of puddling on one side of our house, and the swell in the back that kind of just sits there, and then later on will perk down. And my biggest concern really is our house sits right up next to, it's about 20 feet from the pumping station, the sewerage pumping station. And when we're sitting out there in our cabana, several times we have smelled the sewage. And several other times it has come in through my vent into my home. It's happened, we've lived here, we moved in here 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And I have nothing against the builders. They're great builders. Everybody has the right to build. Everybody has the right to sell their land. But I'm just, against, like I said, I just don't think cramming in a bunch of homes is a good thing. And the buffer, so the buffer on our side is only going to be 5 feet because they're saying we have 20 feet in our backyard. And on Buckingham side, it will be now 29 feet. And I just don't think, I think they should, if they're going to build the 12 homes, they should put it in the middle and have an even buffer like they do, I believe in this neighborhood, do they not, Bill? They have 20 feet on both sides of the street. I just don't understand that. Why? I know they want to save the trees, but you can always, plant more trees like they did in this neighborhood. And, I went over to the pumping station and I have pictures and I don't know if you can see them. I'm not, this technology with Zoom and everything, but there is rust, a lot of rust on several pieces and parts.
Okay, ma'am, please wrap up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, on the pumping station and rusting on my air conditioners on that side. I don't know if it's from mass fumes or what it is, but those are my concerns. And like I said, I'm not against the development. I'm not against the builders. They are good builders, but those are my oppositions, I guess. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. With that, we'll close public comment. Would the applicant like an opportunity to rebut?
Again, Chad Moorhead, yes. I've heard a lot of these things. I think we heard them back in 2014. We heard them in 2016. As I opened up with, the project can't fix the flooding on Lake Sylvan. So we're not going to make it any worse. We're not going to make it any better. I can tell you the other developments to the east, their drainage discharges actually to Pearl Lake. It's not to Sylvan Lake. This project will hold the 100-year storm event. Sylvan Lake Drive will be required to upgrade the pavement to at least 20 feet wide from where Lake Sylvan Oaks stopped to our entry and possibly beyond. That's something to work out with staff, but that's what was done for Lake Sylvan Oaks from Orange Boulevard to the project. The road was widened. Again, if there are road failures to the west, way to the west, which I believe is where we saw most of those pictures, that's an existing county issue that this project can't fix. Like I said, with our roadway improvements, we're required to do a sidewalk. So now there'll be a sidewalk from this property all the way out to Orange Boulevard. So kids can, I'm assuming, can walk to Wilson Elementary. We are in a recharge area. Matter of fact, it's called the most effective recharge area when we have type A soils in this area of Seminole County. The Water Management District and the county require us to hold and perk additional amounts of water into the soil as part of our stormwater requirements. There were some comments on the lift stations. There's a lift station at Buckingham Estates that's been there for about 20 years. And then we did do one on Lake Sylvan Oaks. They have emergency generator receptacles. They have telemetry on them so that when the power goes out, Seminole County, I don't know, bells and whistles go off and they know to bring out an emergency generator. So I know that's a concern. I understand that, but that's the reality of what we have going on. I live in this area, not far at all, several miles away. We're getting a lot of cut-through traffic because State Road 46 is an absolute mess. So, I mean, that may be exacerbating some of the problems. A typical two-lane road in Seminole County, I verified this with Seminole County engineers today, is 19,600 trips a day. 19,360 average daily trips. That's the capacity on a two-lane road in Seminole County. We're nowhere near that on this property or this roadway. So, and then also Lisa, you've heard Lisa's name thrown out several times. I went back and watched the videos from 2014, and she was vehemently against this project. But as the county commission was approving it, they told her several times that, you know what, Ms. Metcalf, someday you may be back in front of us asking for the same thing that we're approving next to you. And that day is today. So with that, I ask that you guys would recommend approval. Go with staff. I can ramble on, but we've definitely shown that the project is equivalent to a 1 acre per unit project. We've done that several times in the area. Not just me, other engineers have done it on other projects in the area. So again, with that, unless you guys have any questions, I would ask that you agree with the staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board, discussion or a motion? Anybody?
I'm kind of leaning towards, there's a lot of development out there, and I've watched it change over the last 5-6 years. And the flooding has gotten worse. I don't see why we need to put 12 houses when it probably should only have 4. Those other, as Richard said in the past, just because we did it before doesn't mean we need to make the same mistake. It's overdeveloped. I think it needs to be 4 acres, 4.8 acres, and needs to have 4 homes on it.
Yeah, I have concerns with regard to flooding, with regard to the capacity of this road. And I believe in property rights, the rights of a property owner to enjoy and use their property and develop it, but I am not in favor of putting this property owner's rights above the rights of the others that have spoken here tonight.
I'm looking at it from a standpoint, this property is surrounded by development, and is it really fair for us to deny them the right that's been done all the way around this piece of property? It sounds like the road problem is it's not going to change by 12 houses. I just don't believe it is. And I really feel horrible that this property got surrounded by houses, but is that a right to deny this individual the use of their property to the best advantage? So I personally would not deny it.
I also agree with Commissioner Smith. Just because this property is the last one in the door, you're going to penalize them? I don't think that's appropriate. 12 watts is not going to fix the drainage or cause any more drainage problems. The drainage problems that exist there are really the county's problems, not the individual subdivisions. And the county needs to really deal with that. Not a 12-watt subdivision, that's the last one to be developed. And I happen to agree that this property owner is certainly entitled. He has the appropriate land use for this use. He's putting in large lots, which will hold the value of the area. I also think that's respectful. He didn't try to come in with a lot of small 50-foot. He's at 70-foot by 120, 9,000 square foot lots. They're good lots. So I don't, just because they're the last one in the door and everybody now says, I'm here and I don't want you here, I don't think it's appropriate to deny this property owner the right to develop the property. So unless you have some comments, I won't.
I feel they're initiating some of the things the county needs to with the sidewalk. Will improve the road, and those things need to move forward, but they're outside of this scope. But it is the beginning with the addressing the bigger problem. This will be a start.
All that being said, I'll make a motion unless there's further discussions. I don't want to short-circuit any of my other commissioners. All right, then I'll recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from Sylvan Estates to plan development, adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 to PD, and approve the associated master plan and development order for 4.8 acres located on the south side of South Sylvan Lake Drive, approximately half-mile west of Orange Boulevard.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Please record my vote as no as well. But the motion carries, right? 4 in favor, 3 opposed.
Do you need a roll?
4 in favor. How many? I didn't hear.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4.
Is that 4?
So the motion carries. Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, will be this will be the Shoreline Protection Ordinance presented by.
No, I think the next was a park dental rezone. when we reordered, we switched those to
No, we're doing the shoreline. We requested that one to go after the,
the last one, but there's one before you still.
yeah, that one will go last, the park.
Yeah, so the park dental rezone will be last?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I misunderstood.
We all
My
did.
motion was, okay. All right.
Okay, Shoreline Protection Ordinance, Land Development Code Amendment, Kim Ornberg of staff will be presenting.
Good evening. For the record, Kim Ornberg, Watershed Management Division Manager, and I'm here to present to you for your consideration an ordinance amending Chapter 70, Dredge and Fill, and adding a new Chapter 71, Seminole County Shoreline Protection Ordinance, to the Seminole County Land Development Code to provide regulations for shoreline alterations and management of aquatic plants for water bodies in unincorporated Seminole County. As you may already know, aquatic plants play an important role in natural water bodies. They can protect the shoreline property from erosion and protect and improve water quality of lakes and streams. This is why it's important to have rules governing their controls and management, since the mismanagement of them can conversely have negative impacts on a water body, such as algal blooms, decreased water clarity and water quality, increased invasive species, and a degradation of the natural ecosystems. Historically, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, or FWC, had regulatory jurisdiction over all lakes statewide that were 10 acres or greater. But in 2018, they changed their rules, and now the FWC only regulates water bodies that are 160 acres or greater. So at this point, it leaves most of the water bodies in Seminole County unregulated and without shoreline protection. So we've come forward with our draft ordinance for your consideration, and this ordinance would only apply to those water bodies that are under 160 acres and in unincorporated Seminole County. So there would be no regulatory overlap. This is just basically to fill the gap that was left by the changes to the state rules. It's beneficial to the county and its residents to protect health of county water bodies for recreational, environmental, and property value purposes. And changes were made to Chapter 70, the Dredge and Fill, and other land development code chapters were only those needed for updates and revisions that refer back to this new Chapter 71. Staff is recommending the adoption of this ordinance. And at this point, this concludes my presentation, and I thank you for your time and your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, questions of staff?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, for the record, you are making a recommendation to the to the Board of County Commissioners.
I have a few questions. First of all, what county agency will make the decision what these aquatic plants are, what seeds are there, and what is a body of water?
It's defined in there. A water body that we would be regulating under this would be between, a lake would be between 2 acres of open water and less than 160 acres. The plants are any of the plants, but as far as any aquatic plants, anything below the normal high water elevation, I'm not.
Okay, well, I was reading this, and this is probably where I have a little problem. It says any plant including a floating, immersed, emergent, submerged, or ditch bank species growing in or closely associated with an aquatic environment. It includes any part or seed of such plant. So we're going to start looking for seeds?
No, that's just to define what aquatic plants are emergent that are growing at or below the normal high water elevation.
Should there, I guess my question is, should there be a list of actually these aquatic plants that should be looked at, or, so we know what an aquatic plant is?
There is a list, or it's referred to in there as far as what we consider beneficial and what we would like to see. It is in the definitions.
Well, that's where I'm at,
Yeah.
definitions.
Okay. It refers back to, at one point as to the Florida FAC 62.340.450, the vegetative index, and that's a fairly inclusive list of aquatic native beneficial plants that would be recommended for those types of things. Let me where you're at, though.
I guess where I'm going with this is I'm worried about the county having an overreach here on personal property that has a small pond or has a drainage ditch going through it, because it does say here under the definition of water body, it can be man-made or natural, and it could include conveyance ditches, canals, creeks, and streams.
Where are you reading from?
I'm reading from definition of water body on page 19 of 39.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, that does, but then on page 20, under what, that's just a definition. Under page 20, B, 3, line 454, water bodies, well, I'm sorry, there's a definition in there of, where is it? But it defines within the actual regulations, I need to look to find it, but that, oh, here it is, I'm sorry, it was back on page 19, shoreline alterations, 436. This chapter 71 applies to all shorelines and includes all natural lakes and any part of a natural lake which are non-man-made in origin and encompasses more than 2 surface acres of open water and less than 160 acres. So as far as regulations, what we would be regulating would not include anything man-made or that does not meet this definition of 2 acres of open water and less than 160 acres.
But it says there, this applies to all shorelines. So what is it? Is it, which includes all natural lakes or any part of a natural lake, blah, 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 but it applies to all shorelines. That's not what you're saying. Does it apply to all shorelines or not?
It applies to all shorelines which are not man-made in origin.
Doesn't say that. It says that later, but it still says applies to all shorelines. Never mind. I'm not going to. I'd like you to answer the Commissioner's question, though. Who's going to administer this ordinance?
The Public Works staff.
So there's some expertise?
Yes, we have shoreline, we have scientists, principal environmental scientists that we've had a lake management program in effect for 15 years now.
Does this ordinance require an economic impact statement?
Yes, there was. It was included.
There is? It was?
It was.
Where was it included?
It was
kind of in the middle.
In our attachments, I believe.
Where is it? You have it? Who has it? Oh, I see it. It's on the back. It's a little one-page nothing. I never mind.
And the intention of this was, maybe I was not as clear as I should have been, but since FWC changed their rules, this left a gaping hole where shorelines are no longer, have any protections. So what we're implementing or what we're proposing is really to fill in that gap.
And I agree with you 100%. I mean, I am, when it comes to the St. Johns River, Lake Jessup, Lake Monroe, Lake Harney, any of those lakes, I agree 1,000%. I just want to be careful that the county doesn't have an overreach into somebody's backyard that happens to have an acre of wetlands in the back. It could do a lot of things. It could keep them from putting a septic tank and drain field in. I mean, there's a lot of things this could affect, and I want to make sure it doesn't affect that.
Correct, and like I said, and I don't know if it might get, if we would like the county attorney, David Shields, to weigh in on that, but it is just, like I said, for those water bodies, and that was the intention of the language there, that it only applies to water bodies that are over 2 and under 160. So it wouldn't apply to just any pond or, and actually, one of the exemptions in there is if you wholly own. If a water body is wholly owned by one landowner, it doesn't apply to that. So it's fairly specific about.
Okay.
And again, I'm sorry, it's filling in. These are the same regulations that were in place for all of these water bodies up until 2018. So
I guess maybe what should happen is the definition should be maybe honed a little bit to match the ordinance itself, so that the definitions are in line. Because when I see water body mentioned in this, and then I go to the definition of water body, it's just two different things. So I'm not sure whether maybe it needs a little more refining.
We'll look at that.
They could look at that between now and county commission, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other questions of staff?
Yes, could you explain paragraph 236? I read the whole thing, I kind of got through it, and that lost me.
Where you at, Bob?
Page 11,
Oh,
top of
sorry,
page
okay.
11.
Line 236? Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. The number on the left. Nephelometric turbidity.
That's NTUs. That is the standard state, and probably it may be federally, I believe it's federal as well, but that's a state standard for turbidity of reading. It's like pH or, but for turbidity, it's a standard unit of, but that's what all turbidity meters read. That would be the units it would be in, so. And that change was made to reflect the same, those are the state standards, 29 NTUs, or 0 if it's an outstanding Florida water.
I'm sure standard language, but I'd never read this before.
Yeah, I think it's something that you have to be involved in one of those areas.
Commissioner Lopez?
Has there been an estimate of how many properties will be affected by this ordinance?
I know we looked at that sometime, and I don't have that number off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay, I mean, a general idea, or?
In unincorporated, I would say there would be, let me send it out to, maybe 3,000, 5,000 maybe at the most.
3,000 to 5,000 individual.
That's a guess. That is a guess. I could get some information and confirm it, but.
Okay. And then you're saying that this is the idea of this is to replace the guidelines that we lost from 2018. How do these differ from those then? Obviously, I'm not an expert in what those are.
How do they differ? Okay, they differ in that they used to only let regulated lakes over 10 acres. So this actually incorporates a little bit more because we're saying over 2 acres. So that between 2 and 10, and I actually have numbers on that. And also, one of the few differences too, Thomas Calhoun's one of our senior environmental scientists in lake management. He's been doing this for a long time with us. We were talking about it today is that we included emergent vegetation as a count because you're allowed to clear 50 feet or 50%, whichever is less, and that was the FWC rules, same as that. But they allowed, we include emergent species that would need to be included in that because that helps protect the shoreline. And I think FWC had just submerged would count, but we wanted you to include some more uplandish species that actually help protect the shoreline and help uptake the nutrients for that. And I think we have added as, it's under the only other difference I believe that there is we included the section on waterfront properties, waterfront lots, and it has a section in there, Section C, let's see, it's page 28. Section C, requiring if you're new development or significant redevelopment, which we do define, that you would need to put in a berm or swale or a vegetative buffer to help protect the water body from the runoff coming from your property. And that's something that's standard accepted language, and we have had numerous nutrient studies done by for our water bodies in Seminole County, and that's always a standard recommendation to help protect the water body from the fertilizer and other things that run off from up.
Thank you.
Additional questions of staff? No? Oh, Commissioner Smith.
To clarify, we're tightening up, we're going from 10 down to 2.
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, and I can tell you how many more lakes that
answers my question. And then from a legal standpoint, is the word all too broad? And I don't know whether somebody can,
I'm sorry?
the word all shoreline, that came up earlier. Is that too broad of a term, or is that required from a legal standpoint?
I don't think so. I'm looking at our county attorney. No, and I think it was the context of it was just to try to say all the shorelines within those water bodies that are between 2 and 160 and are in unincorporated Seminole County. I mean, we could certainly wordsmith that, but I think it's all of the shorelines within those parameters is what the intention was for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a guesstimate on the number?
Well, see, we only have like a dozen lakes that are over 160 acres, so the majority of our lakes are not being. Let's go.
Right, so
I'd like
yes,
to have a
I think
little
there's
more time
16 out of
on
the
this.
200 or so named lakes that are now under, they're the only ones left under FWC jurisdiction. All the rest of them are now unprotected. Oh, I see David coming down.
You're going to get saved, huh?
Shorelines of, yeah, that could be. We could just change, from David is suggesting that we could change it from includes to of. Would that make it?
I think that makes it clearer.
Yeah, is there any chance, Chairwoman, that we could possibly put this, get a little more time to go through this? I think this deserves a little more reading and a little more research, and maybe move this to next month's.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I am.
That's fine, it's up to the board, but I will note that we have advertised this for the
County Commission?
The County Commission,
on the
so what we'll
27th.
have to do, if you do continue this, we would just have to note that it was advertised and that you are continuing it. So I just want to make you aware of that.
Let it go.
All right, we'll let it go. I'm getting
Are you
strong
withdrawing
arm.
your motion?
No, yeah, I'm withdrawing my motion.
Okay.
Getting strong arm.
We'll open the floor for public comment. I have one speaker in support, Cindy Holler.
I'll buy you a drink.
Cindy Holler, 1731 Beacon Drive, Sanford. So I support the shoreline protection ordinance. I appreciate the St. John's Riverkeeper input, working with county staff. I'm concerned about the health of our water bodies. So I actually live on a canal off the St. John, so water quality is really important to me. I don't want, and I'm sure none of us want, a Tampa Bay or Indian River Lagoon problem. So we need to manage our plants better, and I feel that it's better as a program to educate the residents and the contractors. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, do you have anyone online?
I do, Gabby Milch. She will need to unmute.
Hello, my name is Gabby Milch. I live at 252 Coble Drive in Longwood, Florida, and I am speaking today to approve the shoreline protection ordinance. It's an important protection for our water quality. I know it's difficult. The recreation people want to have sand beaches and they want to have no plants because they can't see their feet in some respect. And they're out there swimming in their recreational areas, but the quality of the lake is so important. The uptake that the plants do, they provide habitat for fish. They provide habitat for insects such as dragonflies, which eat the mosquitoes that would be a problem in other ways. So I support the shoreline Protection Act, and I hope that you as a board would do so and make recommendations to the county commission to pass this ordinance, and it would be a wonderful educational opportunity to improve our water quality, and I appreciate you all, and thank you.
Mary, do you have anyone else?
No more speakers.
Okay, then we'll close public, oh boy. Okay. Okay, also in support, we have Natalia Rodriguez.
Me again, Natalia Rodriguez, 362 Seminole Avenue, Lake Mary. I actually came here to speak on this tonight. I just joined in with the other stuff. As I mentioned before, I'm a graduate student in conservation ecology, and here in Florida, we have some of the best riparian areas, and that's places where land and water come together. This is I'm very much in support of this. I know some of you mentioned you would be concerned about how it would affect homeowners. I think there's only benefits, other than, as Gabby just mentioned, people want to have beaches and things like that, but adding native plants, native aquatic plants is going to it's going to create that circle, that life cycle that's super important. Our bodies of water in Florida right now are in dire straits, as I'm sure many of you know. It's just hitting the news right now, but there's so much more there. So adding this ordinance is only going to add benefit to the residents. It's going to trickle down to everyone, even people that don't get to enjoy that water. Aquatic plants, that's the base. You start there, you get the insects, you get it just even down to mosquitoes. So I urge you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Wafa Esposito, also in support.
5040 Hawks Hammock Way. I really would like to thank the county for this initiative, where we have been seeing quite a lot lately, people like Ms. Kim Orton coming to the community and connecting with us and hearing about valuable projects like this one. This is a first step. We're really here creating an ecosystem which these lakes deserve. So I really hope you can take this in consideration. Water without plants and the little creature and the birds and the fish is just a bubble of water. An ecosystem is all about that, about the rest. I'm really hoping for the future to see initiatives also for our dead water retaining ponds that smell most of the time because they have no life in them. I happen to live in a community with 3. One of them has plants. It gets all the birds and has fish. It has life and it does not smell. The others do smell. So this is my little input. Thank you.
Okay, that will close our public comment. Questions, discussions, motion from the board? Commissioner Lopez.
I do have one question. How would the regulation of this be handled? Is this something that would be kind of reactionary type of inspection, if you will, that would take place? Or is this something that they'll be coming out on an annual basis, every 4 years, 5 years? How's it going to be done?
Well, what we are proposing in it would be a permitting process for water body, or for shoreline activities that are not exempted. So let's say you have your waterfront lot, and if you want to clear your access corridor 50 feet or 50%, whichever is less, which is the same as the state regulations were and are for the water bodies they regulate. If you stay within that access corridor, you don't need a permit and you're fine. If you want to a larger access corridor than that, then you need to come and go through the permitting process. And we've been working with the building department, will be using the same online permitting process as that, so it will just be routed to us, our group, to go out there and do that. It's really, and we, in our group in watershed management, we have water quality, lake management, and mosquito control, and we have the fertilizer ordinance, and we have a couple other illicit discharge ordinance, but all of the activities that we do are really geared towards public education. So the first thing that we do, if we saw something, and we won't be, and I'm sorry if I back up, we certainly are not going to have, shoreline police that are going out, What we will do, we are out doing water quality monitoring, we're out on lakes. If we see something, we'll talk to people. If we see somebody that's just cleared their entire shoreline, first thing we're going to do is we're going to reach out and talk to them and explain to them, the benefits. And 9 times out of 10, or even more than that, most people just don't know. Maybe they're new to the lake, and so we'll help them, replant it and put some healthy plants, some good plants in there that are attractive, and they can still have their access corridor. So that's how most of it will be handled. If we see somebody go in and they're like dredging it out, and they bring two dump trucks full of sand in, that's a violation. We'll work with them, and we'll give them, and I think it even spells it out in somewhere in there, but they'll have, a certain, like 90 days or something like that, to try to come back into compliance. So we're going to work with them on that. The intention is not, we're certainly not going to be generating a lot of money from this. That's, I don't even know at this point, I don't know that what we would charge, what we're looking at charging, which is still to be determined as far as the permit fees, is not going to fund the program, nor would I expect that any non-compliance. I mean, the point is to just try and educate people and to keep our water bodies healthy. So, did I answer your question?
You did, yeah. Thank you.
Further discussion or a motion?
Just a comment. I think it's, commend the staff. I think it's a good, it protects the quality of our lakes while still preserving private property rights.
Did you want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 70, dredge and filling, and adding a new Chapter 71, Seminole County Shoreline Protection Ordinance, to the Seminole County Land Development Code to provide regulations for shoreline alterations and management of aquatic plants and water bodies in Seminole County.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and the motion carries. Last item on the agenda will be the Park Dental rezone. Joy Giles of staff will be presenting.
It's Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. This request is for a rezone from R1 Single Family Dwelling to C3 General Commercial and Wholesale on approximately 0.76 acres located on the west side of State Road 426, approximately 800 feet south of Connection Point. The applicant is requesting a rezone from R1 to C3 in order to develop the subject property as a dental office in compliance with the C3 zoning district, which permits general office, commercial and wholesale distribution, storage, and light manufacturing. The subject property has an industrial feature land use which allows the requested C3 zoning district. The site does not have direct access onto State Road 426 and will access from the Magnolia Corporate Office Center adjacent on the west via a shared access easement. The request is consistent with the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan and compatible with the surrounding development trend in the area, which consists of an office park adjacent on the north and east and industrial uses adjacent on the west, including the Department of Transportation Maintenance site shown on the aerial to the west. At time of engineered site plan review, the development must meet all requirements for parking, access, building height, open space, permitted uses, and maximum FAR in accordance with the Seminole County Land Development Code. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from R1 to C3 as requested. Thank you.
Okay. Questions of staff?
Yeah, Joy, there's a trail, does this involve the trail?
There is a trail. The property abuts the trail, and then there is another portion or sliver of property on the other side of the trail. So that's why this property does not have direct access onto State Road 426.
Okay.
So they will be accessing from the adjacent property to the east.
Now, is the trail continuous through here?
It is, yes, and the trail will not be affected by the access of the property.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, is the applicant present?
Chad Moorhead with Madden Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue. Agree with staff recommendation, here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant? Seeing none, we'll open public comment. I do have a number of comment cards here opposed that have elected not to speak. I'll pass those around so the members of the board can take a look. And we'll call Sonia Ring. Please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Ring. I work right across from the street at the contended site at 2653 West State Road, 426. It is a small mom and pop's business opened 60 days ago, and we serve veterans statewide. Why did I choose to start up my practice in Oviedo? My husband is ex-joint special operations combat veteran. We are a proud military family. To me, it's an honor to serve those who have served, and I chose this specific site because of the large veteran population in the area. Since completing my VA residency a decade ago, it is my core mission to open my office that would be a one-stop shop for our hometown heroes. Last week, someone by the name of Dara Edmonds informed me that another dental office would be attempting to rezone directly across from me. She urged me to keep the space green and tipped me off to attend this meeting. Since then, we have multiple random pedestrians walk into my office to let us know that we should be at the forefront to oppose this new venture. There is no ulterior motive except to conserve Oviedo's cherished outdoors. Many from the neighboring suburbs bring their children after school, and it's become a fond and favorite spot for local bike clubs and kids alike. With this potential site development, everyone is saying that sadly the trail is turning into just another sidewalk in a sea of construction with one big parking lot. Oviedo speaks to me because of its nostalgic charms and chickens roaming around Broadway and Ace Hardware. We have one of the best high schools. We have the best golf courses, the best restaurants. We have the best neighborhood with a hometown feel. It is one of the fastest growing cities in Central Florida, which means that we must be selective when it comes to zoning and commercializing. But let me take off my dentist hat and put on my concerned citizen's hat. Have we not seen what happened to Lake Nona? It bloomed dangerously overnight, and it did so indiscriminately. There is a disproportionate number of businesses to residents there, and people hate it. Aloma does not need any more heavier traffic or hard pavements destroying the nature for the construction of a property that's just like the one right across from the street. Yes, we live in America, and you can do whatever you want, but out of the respect of others, and try to at least be environmentally conscious. If you must start a dental practice, why not rent, just like me, a space a couple yards away in a medical plaza that's already been zoned and built out? County Commissioners and Chairwoman, if you approve this rezoning, you are opening the floodgates to inviting a large land developers like the Kaisers and his dental office to run our town. Then how many sites will we need to rezone in the near future? How fast are we going to have to expand? Will you be approving 2, 4 dental office in X number of months? What will happen to our quaint little town? As a business resident of Oviedo, I say this to you. The citizens of Oviedo do not welcome the destruction of their trails, which they paid for with their taxes. Our veterans do not approve of this senseless rezoning, as it would set their beloved dental office for failure just 2 months of starting out. I appreciate your time, and I earnestly implore you to make the right decision.
May I ask you a question? Did you say you have a dental office right across the street from this?
Yes, sir. It just opened 60 days ago.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Pasquale.
Hi, Bob Pasquale, 892 Kensington Gardens Court in Oviedo, Florida, 32765. I've lived in Oviedo since 1994, and believe me, I've seen some terrible changes happening, especially with the nature parks, the nature area. There was orange groves down the street from us. There were a lot of wildlife areas, and it's turning into a concrete jungle with the development that's going on. It is like Lake Nona. I was in Lake Nona yesterday for lunch, for a meeting, and it's turning into Lake Nona or Chiliota. It's just overpopulated. There is no longer any green areas that are really, really good areas for kids. My kids were brought up there, and they love the area. We love the area, and we hate to see this. Neighbors use the trails and the nature parks, and they love this area, but it's turning into, like Sonia said, like a sidewalk. I urge you guys to think about it and think about the future. And another thing is that I'm a business broker. I carry the same license as a real estate broker and sell businesses and buy businesses. I can't understand why any builder would put a dental office right across the street from another dental office. It's only there 60 days. That makes absolutely no sense to both parties. It's going to hurt Sonia badly, and it's going to hurt the new company that wants to put a place there. So thinking of that, I ask you guys to think about turning this down. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, I have VFW. Please state your name and your address for the record.
I'm David Matthews. I live at 1283 Punta Gorda Circle, Winter Springs, Florida, right on the Oviedo Winter Springs line. And I'm with the VFW. I'm also with 3 total members of veteran organizations in Seminole County. I'm also DAV in Sanford, American Legion Post 243, and I'm Junior Vice Commander for Post 10139 in Chiliota, Florida. It was a breath of fresh air when I heard that Sonia's team was going to give veterans free dental care. Now, in Seminole County, there's 35,000 veterans that live in Seminole County, and it's growing. With the political climate, what's going on, people are moving down to Florida. A lot of veterans are because of Lake Baldwin and Lake Nona. So they're going to live within a 20-mile radius to these VA hospitals, and they're moving from California and New York to us. So there's going to be more than 35,000 veterans. You take that number, and there's out of 12% of veterans have 100% disability. When you have 100% disability, you get free dental care with the VA. Okay, so that means there's 30,000 veterans in Seminole County that don't have dental care. Okay, Sonia's group, her team, is giving great support for dental care for all veterans in the state of Florida. And they're traveling all over the area to come in, and she's setting them up with their correct x-rays and stuff like that. So being involved with so many veteran organizations, I can't understand why a dental company would build right across one that's helping all these veterans. 30,000 of them can be assisted in the area. How would a dental business open across the street from a dental company that's unprecedented, that's going to help free dental care for veterans? I've never heard of this. And I've been with the VA since 2005. I have never heard of a business that's going to allow free dental care for veterans. But to me, that I take my hat off for her hard work and her family's hard work in the veteran community. I highly recommend that you look, that Park Central Dental is really an honorary what they're doing for our veterans. It's so important to look out our veterans right now. As we get older, we need our dental care. It's going to be happening sooner, so she's going to get a lot of more traffic in that area for her, and I honor what her team is doing for our veterans in this area. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We have Cindy Holler.
This is the third time she's...
Cindy Holler, 1731 Beacon Drive, Sanford. So, planning and zoning seems to be a really good item for you, this agenda. Is this good planning? You know, I mean, I know it's a decision for this, you know, this rezone. My main concern with this is that it doesn't interfere with the trail that's there. These are COVID times, right? We're like in the midst of a pandemic. And residents need trails for their, you know, sanity. So anyway, I oppose it for that reason, and I hope that that property can be preserved or be residential, like the zoning is. Thank you.
Okay. Mary, do you have anyone online?
No hands raised.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public comment.
I did just get two hands.
Okay.
The first one is James Dela.
Yes, good evening, Commission. My name is Jim Delia. I live at 741 Gray Heron Place in Chuleota, Florida, 32766. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'll be brief and to the point. I object to the rezoning for the following reasons. I've lived here since 2013, and I've seen nothing but explosive growth, especially in the commercial area. I moved to Seminole County to enjoy the rural nature of Seminole County, and it's quickly disappearing. We're becoming one giant strip mall. Rezoning this property to commercial would further contribute to this explosive growth. Second, there are numerous other commercial zone properties that are available in the immediate area that could be purchased or leased for this business. And third, a rezone to commercial and business placed in that location, it will definitely negatively impact the bike and jogging trail. A residence would have a much less impact. A business is going to have a great impact on that jogging trail. There's going to be a macadam parking lot, traffic, and many people coming in and out of there. It would do a great disservice to our outdoor spaces. I ask that you recommend disapproval of this rezone based on the fourth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, who's next?
Okay, the next is Eric Janowitz.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Dr. Eric Janowitz. I have a practice in Oviedo at 1791 East Broadway Street, Oviedo, Florida 32765. I have to tell you, first of all, that I love this city and I love this town and all the things that it has to offer. I've also had the opportunity to work with a lot of patients with my chiropractic practice of people who are really struggling with working from home and really needing the outdoors and trails, and we're working really hard to get them out there to be able to do these things. And the concern I have is a couple. One is that if we limit the access to trails, we're really limiting the health and well-being for a lot of our patients in the community, and I'm just concerned about that. So that's one of my major concerns, is the health and well-being and the fact that it can impose their ability to get access. The second thing that I'm concerned about is just seeing, with the working from home, I'm seeing what's happening commercially in the area. In my plaza, and I've been there for 20 years in my plaza, there's two recent closures of businesses that are now leaving vacancies. And so I would much rather see vacancies be filled in existing properties than taking away nature and other access to other areas. So I would just encourage the board to consider closing this rezoning opportunity and really encouraging businesses to use our existing, to use our resources properly. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last speaker is Gigi Image.
Hello? Hi, we can hear you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gigi Image. My address is 550 Lake Drive, Choliota, Florida, 32766. I'm opposed to this. I frequent the trails myself with my son, and it's just, there's so much traffic. I really don't want to see any more traffic on this road. It's already alongside a lot of other businesses, and crossing these parking lots with all this traffic, there's been several times where people are not paying attention. They're turning into these parking lots at very fast speeds, and my son, he's 7 years old, riding on these trails that are supposed to be safe and family friendly. It's not going to be doing that if we can add more businesses to here. Especially since if it was just a residential place, it wouldn't be as much traffic. There's already a medical building that's located, a medical facility that's located right there. So there's that traffic, and adding more traffic would be more dangerous. I also think that I agree with what some of the other people were saying, is that I would like to see these businesses take existing spaces that are being not used, instead of wasting them and taking apart a lot of our greenery. Oviedo and Seminole County has been really known for the trails and the natural habitats that we still have, and I would really love to see those preserved. So I'm opposed to this.
Thank you. Mary, anybody else?
No more speakers.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public comment.
Yes, I would like to state for the record that the request being heard tonight is strictly for a rezone to C3. It's not for any particular use, just the permitted uses under the C3 zoning district. As it stands now, the existing A1, or excuse me, the existing R1 zoning is inconsistent with the future land use that's already been established on this property as industrial.
Joy, could you do me a favor? Could you show me the trail in respect to that?
Sure.
It looks like it ends there, and I'm having trouble comprehending where it goes from.
It goes through the trees, you can't see it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the Google Maps, and it does not end there.
Okay. Thank God for Google. Right.
It runs through those trees.
Okay, so here is the trail right here, so it's going to continue. The trail's not going to be affected
Okay.
by access at all from the development of the property.
Great. Thank you for helping me out with that.
Joy, one other quick question that I would have. This is strictly a rezoning. I'm glad you pointed that out. It's not a site plan. So you're going to see a site plan later at some point for the development of this property?
Yes, sir,
And
a site plan.
At that point, you'll be able to see if it impacts the trail at all, which it doesn't seem to or couldn't, but you'll be able to provide setbacks and other things within that site plan. So
yes, sir.
I don't see the trail as an issue either, so thank you.
Would the applicant like a chance to rebut?
Chad Moorhead, Matt Moorhead and Stokes. Again, Joy stole my thunder and the fact that we're just here for the rezone. But we did spend probably the last year working on getting the access easement so that we didn't have another trail crossing before we came to you with this rezone. So that's all I have to say. Again, it's going to a straight rezone. There's a lot of things that could happen in there. The applicant obviously is a dentist, but something could happen and it could turn into something else. But it is a piece of residentially zoned property and an industrial future land use. So really not practical for it to be residential. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board discussion, questions or a motion?
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I would not live there.
No, I wouldn't.
Everything around it is commercial.
Yes, I mean, look at the aerial, and it's obvious what,
Yeah, and I keep zooming out, and it's,
And I notice the state takes very, very good care of their property there.
Yeah,
let's also point out that our job here has nothing to do with economic decisions
Right,
about
right.
what goes on around, on particular land uses. So,
right.
and I like somebody's comment about explosive growth with this being less than an acre of land. That's pretty explosive, so.
That's right, 417 too.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that a number of the things that we heard tonight aren't really things that we're really allowed to consider at this stage or at this level. So do we have any further discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting as a rezone from R1 single-family dwelling to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately .76 acres located on the west side of State Road 426, approximately 800 feet south of Connection Point.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. This concludes our regular agenda items, so we're going to move on to closing business. Mary, do you have anything for the board?
First of all, thank you to those who attended the annual ethics training. We appreciate that. As a follow-up, there was a question about the email addresses. We have asked our IT department, and they are looking into that, but they did note that there may be some cost and security concerns with that, but they will be getting back to us on that.
Okay. I have one item I'd like to bring up. Could we get some clarification on the guidelines of who is considered an official group? And given 6 minutes, is there something already defining that, or is it something that we could
My understanding,
delineate?
it's always been a homeowner association.
I think Paul Chipak is coming to address that.
It's written in the script as official group, and so that's why I gave a little bit of leeway tonight, but I'd like to be able to be more specific in the future.
Yeah, because we're getting a lot of groups.
It's growing.
For the record, Paul Chipak, Deputy County Attorney. Point well taken. There is no specific rules or regulations on that now. We will work on that with staff. And again, it's an issue not only for this board, but also for the Board of County Commissioners, so we will raise that with them as well, and hopefully get some guidance, possibly in the nature of an administrative code policy.
Okay, some of the things that I think should be considered are, in one situation, there was no official HOA, so I didn't let her speak because we said an official group. But really, I think that homeowner was more affected, and that neighborhood is probably more affected in its proximity to the subject property than other groups that were official, that we gave extra time to. So I wonder if, the geography, the proximity could be part of the
Okay,
consideration.
very good, and that's a very good point. We'll take that under consideration. This probably won't come back to you next month. It'll probably take a while to...
Is that going to take an ordinance, Paul?
No, it would be...
Procedure
probably
thing or something? Is it?
An administrative code
Yeah.
policy, probably, which is an adoption of resolution by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay.
So we will work on that, but again, it'll take some vetting and probably getting with some of the groups as well that are affected. So before it comes back to you or to the Board of County Commissioners, everybody has a fair shot at participating in the creation of the rule.
Yeah, I just think when it comes to a residential like this, it should pertain to the HOAs that surround that piece of property as opposed to outside groups.
Yeah, I don't think HOAs, in other parts of the county.
Well, somebody said at the beginning they were an LLC, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, all valid points. We'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Very good,
Thanks,
thank
Paul.
you. All right.
Would it be
meeting-
improper for that to be a chairman's prerogative then, in the meantime, as long as there's a sense of consistency?
I might read it a little different next month.
Yeah.
forward, will you handle it differently?
Actually, Dan, I've been on the board for a while. That's really the first time that we've really had that stumbling block. I mean, normally they are Clarissa did the right thing. She let the person that said they were represented in the neighborhood, but they weren't formal HOA, that's fine. But we've never had anything like what we had tonight that I can recall, at least for a long time.
There
But
seems to-
still, let's
There seems
get it
to be a
on.
lot of small environmental groups that are starting to pop up.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I guess that's something that we'll have to sort out.
And traditionally, this has been homeowners associations or, associations that have something to do with property owners nearby. I mean, we're getting some names of nothing of the sort. I didn't know what to do with the VFW. The guy didn't even put his name.
Yeah.
So I think we need some definition.
Me, I hope we didn't set a precedent and not even watch the next.
No,
next
the
meeting,
reason
because
I
we may
did
have to
it
adjust
was
it.
because I knew that I had read official group, and I will probably take some latitude and be a little more specific next time,
This
and
was-
pending something further.
This was a weird night. And we had two people from Chuliota objecting to a less than an acre commercial rezoning. I mean, that was over on 426.
We had a change.org petition submitted with signatures from out of state.
I noticed that.
Washington
Well, that one,
State,
we also had one, I saw the one there that was the same handwriting, but two different names.
yeah.
Did you
Yes,
notice that one?
I noticed that one.
I read through those signatures, and I couldn't believe where the people were from.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we adjourned.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Motion, or meeting is adjourned. You don't need a motion.
Oh, we don't? I don't know the closest place.